All right, hey guys, back for third video in Unit 3. And in this, and I apologize for the last one going a little bit long. I try to keep them under 15 minutes, ideally under 10, but what are you going to do? This is the second part of our exploration of kind of the basics of free market capitalism. So free market capitalism's here. I have taken out the statuses and norms from last time. Remember that what we were talking about last time, or where we were going, was into the three questions that you can use to analyze any economy. What gets produced and how that gets decided. How it gets produced and how that gets decided. And who gets to have what. So these two are about production. This last one is about distribution. We're going to get straight into them. By way of me saying that, remember, these issues are shaped by the beliefs that we talked about, beliefs about people, beliefs about nature. Okay, so let's start with how do we decide what gets produced? In a free market situation, free market capitalism, what gets produced is whatever will make money. It's not based on whether it's good for us. It's not based on whether it is beneficial to society. As long as somebody can make a profit, those things will be produced. Now, there is some degree of, it's circumscribed by traditional morality to some degree. I mentioned last time, I can't go selling my kids. Although it is important to note, and I'm not selling my kids. The way my tone of voice changed almost made it sound like I was going to. I'm not going to sell my kids. But it's important to understand that to the extent that somebody is willing to buy children, that market does exist. It's just what's called the black market. We have within the free market, once people have beliefs that people should be free to buy whatever they want, it's very difficult to say, okay, let's stop here. I mean, we used to have a market for people. It was called slavery. We have markets for sex in terms of prostitution. We absolutely have markets for people. That is human trafficking. We've got all of that stuff. It's important to understand that once you go this route of free market capitalism, and this isn't meant to be like an indictment of free market capitalism. There's a lot of good that comes of it. But it's important to understand, we can't be naive flag wavers for it either. It's got problems. So whatever will make somebody money. Okay, the two things that ignores, that are sort of missed in that simplification. First thing is that it ignores the idea of manipulation that can happen to influence somebody to want something. Remember, we talk in the collective consciousness about equality and that we believe that everybody can sort of freely enter this on equal terms. Well, the reality is, we saw this in the corporation, there are people who are really smart whose entire job is to manipulate you and me into wanting things that we wouldn't necessarily want without that. Remember the whole undercover marketing thing where there are actors in our midst who are talking up restaurants or clothes or bands or whatever. So the idea that what gets produced is whatever will make money, something that's important to realize is it's not just based on, well, I'm willing to pay for something, therefore it will be produced. It's corporations in our society, could be individuals in a different society, but for us, corporations could manipulate me into wanting something that I didn't necessarily want and then selling it to me to make money. The idea here is that to say it's just whatever people will buy is an oversimplification. People don't just come up with their own desires on their own. People are manipulated into having certain desires as well. The other point with regard to this, the other nuance that I want to add, is that it also suggests that things that might be needed but don't make money won't necessarily be produced. There isn't a morality to this, there's only desire. So if it is if it would be tremendously necessary for example, to cure some disease, but there isn't any way that anybody could afford to pay for the medication. The medication would be too expensive. That medication just doesn't get made because the only things that are made in a free market capitalist society are the things that are going to generate a profit. Okay, so that deals with whatever will make money with those couple of nuanced additions that I put in. The second question is, how do we decide how things get produced? The way things get produced, and this is going to be the creepy thing you're going to see in the documentary for this week, which is Food Inc. If you haven't seen it, sorry. But it's awesome. I mean, it's great to see. It's just a horrible experience to watch it. How things get produced? In the way that will maximize profit. So how do we structure those norms for those workers? Whatever way will maximize profit. And generally speaking, this is going to be the most efficient way to do it. So we could also say, at least a component of this is rationalization. Rationalization being a Weberian term. Rationalization of focusing on efficiency in all processes. Importantly, but adding nuance to that, we kind of take this for granted, but it has not always been that way. We had to learn as a society to embrace efficiency, because efficiency a lot of times is kind of lousy. I mean, you want it from other people. You want them to behave as efficiently as possible. But when you are constrained to behave in an efficient way for others, it's alienating. It's a miserable. If you've ever worked on an assembly line, that is like the quintessential efficient process. And after 10 minutes, you want to die because it's horrible. So this idea of, we want to maximize profit. It's important to understand that's not a human tendency. Humans tend to do whatever their society tells them is to be expected. If our society said, structure your processes based on enjoyment, personal fulfillment, connections with other people, and that efficiency should be in a backseat to that, we would all do that. It's just our society doesn't tell us that. Okay, so we've dealt with what gets produced, whatever's going to make money, whatever people were willing to pay for. How? In a way that will maximize profit, generally speaking, according to efficiency. And now, finally, who gets what? And we've already answered this question before, but it is whoever can afford it. That means if you can't afford it, you don't get stuff. If you can't afford a house, you don't get a house. You can't afford food, you and your kids go hungry. That is a logical extension, a logical result, a consequence of free market capitalism. The way we produce and distribute is according to money. And if you don't have any, you don't get anything. That's it. God, this is going to be the shortest one I've done in a while. Not that short. Next time, we will introduce a specific type of organization that fits within this. A corporation, obviously, but a particular type of corporation, a corporation that is based around meeting our needs for survival, corporations that are based on food. So I'll see you in that one.